What's up, everybody? So you guys know how my setup is. My camera is here, okay, so that it looks prettier and so that I can get this into the screen. You guys are right here. So if it looks like I'm not looking at you ever, I'm looking at you. If it looks like I am looking at you, I'm not looking at you. Does that make sense? All right, here's a poll. I want to know if you guys already own investment real estate or not. This is not a right or wrong answer. I just like to know who my audience is. So I can cater it towards you guys, and if it's a mix, then great. We'll hit both of you. Let's see, 63% of you don't own real estate yet, and 37% of you do. That is awesome. Kudos to y'all who already have it. That's a huge first step, and to those of you who don't, that's perfectly normal. I think when somebody takes the step to say I'm trying to learn how to do this because I want to be able to buy real estate, I think that puts you in the 1%. Like, I really believe that. I think most people never think it's even an option, and they count themselves out before they even get started. I think there's this myth that real estate's only for the wealthy. And although it definitely makes you wealthy, I think it's more powerful. I don't know if it's more powerful, because it's very powerful for the wealthy too, to reduce taxes and store their money. But man, to take somebody from middle class to call it upper class or wealth or freedom, I mean, that's pretty powerful. And I think I know of personal experience that is what real estate does. But the sad part is, I mean, think about this, guy. I'm just going to talk to y'all like I talked to if y'all were sitting here in my room today. I didn't super prepare for this today because I wanted to just have a conversation with you guys. And when I say I didn't super prepare, I know what I'm teaching on. I got it all planned out. But I want this to be very conversational with all of you. But think about, like, what is the number one asset that makes the majority of people wealthy? The majority of people. It's their own home. Like, they'll buy their own home, they'll own it for 5 to 7 years, then they'll sell it. They have a ton of equity, and it's the most money they've ever made in an entire year when they sell their home, right? But they only do it one time with one property. And you're just like, from a guy from my standpoint who used to be in that boat, but now has a bunch of properties outside of my primary, I'm like, bro, what are y'all doing? Like, what are you, and for y'all who haven't bought property yet, I'm not talking to you because you're on the track, you're learning. But for the people who never even explore it, it's like, dude, your number one asset builder is your home. Like, that's the biggest asset you have, and you won't go buy more of those. And so it's crazy to me, and it makes no sense to me why they don't do it. But for y'all who are on the right track, you're learning. I think it's amazing. I want everybody to put in the chat, like, why real estate? Like, what is it about you? What are you trying to accomplish with real estate? I know for me, to tell my story, it was time freedom. So I am huge on being able to wake up every day and choose what I want to do. Like, that was what I initially set out for. And I think everybody's thing changes over time. Like, now, I've got that, so now it's the next step for me, right? And I start focusing on, okay, what does legacy look like? What does generational wealth look like? But when I started, it was like, bro, how do I get my time back? And I see some of these. Let's see. We got Dirt, Freedom, Kyle, get my time back. Heck yeah. Dan, my own boss. Brandon, generational wealth, freedom, escape the rat race, time freedom, freedom. Enough cash flow to fire a boss. I love it. Retire my husband. Heck yeah, I'm about to get Mary Beth. Get in here. You need to read this. It's like he said, retire her husband. I'm gonna get smacked. Financial independence, passive income, freedom. I love it. All those. When I think of real estate, I think that we start. We'll just say the root of what everybody wants is freedom, right? That's everybody's desire. Is that. And there are a number of different ways you can get to freedom in life. Real estate's not the only one, but it is one that has proven itself time and time and time again. So it's not speculative. So you can go in buying these assets saying, bro, people who have bought these for centuries and held on to these little assets right here, eventually get this. That's just all there is to it. If you keep buying these and hold on to them over time, you have no other choice but to eventually achieve freedom. But to be able to achieve freedom, we have to know how to buy these. And so while I wish that in this one setting, I could take all you through how to do it all, I can't. We would have to spend months, if not a year together, to be able to do it. But hopefully I can help you guys move the needle in at least this one area of how do I know if a deal is a good deal or not? How do I know what to purchase a property at? How do I know if it's going to cash flow, right? And I think that's a good starting spot, right? And you'll hear me talk about these 5 areas more, later in the call. But I think there's 5 key areas in real estate. I think there's 5 key. And I think if you look at these 5 key areas, all the little stuff, all the intricacy, is that the right word? Stuff like falls underneath these 5 areas, okay? And so the way I teach it is if you can master these 5 areas, then you're going to be successful at real estate investing forever, okay? So we got to be able to choose a market. You guys can write this down if you want. You got to be able to generate leads in that market. You got to be able to analyze those leads after you get them. That's what we're talking about today. Analyze these leads. Okay, after we've analyzed leads and found a good deal, what do we got to do next? We got to pay for that deal, right? So we got to be able to fund our deals. And then after we fund our deals, we have to be able to manage. So whether we're managing rehab, whether we're managing our tenants, whether we're managing property managers who are managing our tenants. And if we can do those 5 things, again, market, lead gen, analyze, fund, manage. If you can do those 5 things, you'll be successful. And so I'm not teaching about all these today. Unfortunately, I tried to do different lessons on each of them. We're going to focus, I didn't even spell, look, how are you going to learn how to analyze from me and I can't even spell analyze right? We're going to learn how to analyze properties, okay? Now, one thing I like to hit real quick before I dive in, I won't spend a lot of time on this because I want to get into the meat and potatoes of it all. But some of you may say, okay, why is real estate, like, what's the big deal about it? Some of you may be sitting on this call and say, like, I know that it works, but like, what are the things about it that make it so powerful? Okay, and I think it's these 6 pillars. You got leverage. Let's see. Leverage, that is really big. Cash flow, appreciation, forced appreciation, debt buy down. That is some sloppy handwriting right there. And taxes. This is what makes real estate so powerful. I always say this is the greatest concoction known to man. Okay, when you put all these together, it's the greatest concoction known to man. So leverage, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these, but leverage just means we can use other people's money to buy real estate. That's unbelievable. That we can put none of our own money in a deal, or even a very little amount of our money in the deal, and acquire these assets. Okay? After we acquire them, they're going to pay us monthly. A lot of them are, but they're going to pay us monthly. After we've taken our rents and we paid all of our expenses off, whatever is left over is going to go into our bank account. Third is real estate has proven over time it goes up in value. So if you look at the graph of real estate over time, it's going to continue to go up. So if you buy it and just sit on it, over time, it's going to be more valuable. Then we have what's called, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, forced appreciation. Forced appreciation is just a fancy word for saying we can buy an ugly property, put rehab into it, and immediately force it to be more valuable. It's amazing. That's what we do with fix and flips. That's what we do when we're doing the BRRRR method. So we can buy an ugly house that the general public is scared to buy, make it pretty, and then make money on that property instantly. Debt buy down, after we own a rental property, we're going to have debt that we leveraged, but instead of us having to pay it off, a tenant's going to pay it off for us. And then all the while, we're getting tax benefits. And so we spend just a little bit of money of our own to buy a property, if any of our own money. Cash flow is paying us every month. The property's going up in value over time. We can make it go up in value instantly. Tenants are paying down that mortgage that we leverage while the property's going up in value. So your net worth is growing substantially, which, guys, that is where real wealth is built. Anybody who tells you real wealth is built in cash flow is lying, or they just don't know what they're talking about. Cash flow is great. It can be an offensive measure. It can cover bills. It's a great defensive measure for when things come up. But your wealth, the thing that will change your life, is what we call equity. Appreciation over time while tenants are paying down your debt. And it's not just paper money. You can access that equity. You can access it tax-free. There's a lot of different strategies we can use. And when you start building that equity, that's when your life really starts to change. More so, I would argue, than cash flow. Although they're both unbelievably powerful metrics. And then we have taxes. And so the tax benefits of real estate are ridiculous. They're amazing. You got write-offs, you got depreciation, you can do 1031 exchanges. You can do all types of different things to where we are lowering our tax bill and being able to buy and sell properties without having to pay a lot of taxes. So just wanted to quickly run over what the main benefits of real estate were. Everybody good? Type in the chat, say I'm good, I got it, I'm ready to roll. We're gonna jump right into analyzing and making sure you guys feel confident when analyzing a deal. Let's do this thing. Cool. All right, so I'm gonna talk. I was struggling with, how do I go about going through this material in which order, and I came to. I'm going to walk you through a property that I just purchased and show you how I worked through it in my mind to see if it was a good deal, if it wasn't a good deal, how I went about analyzing it, how I chose whether to keep it as a rental and buy it traditionally with 20% down, or whether I was going to burr it, or whether I was going to fix and flip it, turn around, fix it up, and turn around and sell it, within 3 to 6 months, okay? And so what we ended up doing on this property, and I'll walk you guys through it. I'm going to try to share my screen right now. Let's see here if I can figure out how to do that. All right. Cool. Michael, shake your head yes if you can see that. I can see you on my screen. Michael or Dan. All right, cool. All right, so this is a property that I just purchased, and we are in the middle of rehab right now. Okay, 2903 Edgewood Avenue, Anderson, South Carolina. And we bought it for $148,000. I couldn't get it for any less. The lady who was selling it, she was an investor herself, would not budge, was like, the bottom of the barrel is 148, or I'm just not going to sell it at all. And so I had to buy it at that. Price. Okay, I'm going to walk you through my thought process for why I didn't keep it as a rental. We're fixing and flipping, so I'm going to walk you through that in a minute. But my mind always goes to, how do I keep a property in my portfolio? Okay, that's where my mind goes, because most of the time I don't need the income to live. Now, people ask me often, how do you choose between keeping a property as a rental or flipping it? If I need cash, then I'll flip the property. If I don't need cash, then I'm going to try and keep it as a rental, unless it just doesn't make sense as a rental, but it does make sense as a flip. And that's what happened with this property. It was a mix of, it didn't make sense as a rental, and my wife wants to do a kitchen renovation here like 3 walls down from me. And I was like, okay, if you want to do a kitchen renovation, not using our money. So we need to go flip enough properties to be able to pay for this kitchen renovation. And that's kind of how we've ran our life is, if we are going to spend money on ourselves, we're going to let our assets pay for it, okay? And so I'm going to talk to you first about the formula I use to make sure that I am buying a flip. We're going to focus on flips first. We'll get into rentals here in a minute. You have to buy, when you're buying flips, it all starts with what price do you buy it at. We have to get that purchase price right. If not, you will lose money or at best break even. The first flip I did, I bought it in 2015. I was living in Jacksonville, Florida, and the flip was in Port St. Lucie, Florida. I still, to this day, have never seen the property. Did not buy it at the right price, did not know how to estimate costs correctly, and we barely broke even. I mean, made just a tiny little profit on it. And that taught me a hard lesson. Luckily, I didn't lose a ton of money, but I could have. It taught me a hard lesson that, bro, you need to put something in place to make sure that you don't make this decision again, Okay, so here's my formula, and then I'm going to walk you through how you go about filling this formula out for when I am buying a flip. All right, so it looks like this. ARV times 70%. Let's see if I can fit all this on the screen. Minus rehab equals our purchase price. Okay? So we got to find the ARV of the property. You guys are saying, what is ARV? It is just after repair value. What is the property going to be worth after we repair it? The reason I love residential real estate so much is because it is so easy to know what a property is going to be worth. Okay, why? Because the way you find after repair value is by looking at recently sold homes in that area that are comparable to the one you're looking at buying. All right? And so once we figure that out, we're going to multiply it by 70%, we're going to subtract our rehab, and then we know we need to buy that property in that particular price range for the rent to make sense. So let me walk you guys through exactly how I did it on 2903 Edgewood Avenue. Okay? Now I'm going to show you a faster way to do this than what I'm about to do for you, but I'm a little old school when it comes to analyzing properties. I like to do it manually. Okay? It's just something that I really like to do. And so I will go on Zillow, all right, and I've got three pulled up, 3 comps that I use, but we're going to go to this, and I'm going to show you how I go about it. And it's not as accurate, if this makes sense, the comps that have just recently sold, because I bought this in May, so it's going to be showing you comps after May, if that makes sense. So I didn't use all these comps after May since I'd already bought the property, but I want to show you the process. Then I'll show you the comps that I did use. Okay, y'all with me? Shake your head if you're with me. Y'all tracking with me on that? Cool. All right, so where's Edgewood Avenue? Let's find this puppy. I thought I had it on here. There's Glenwood. There we go. So I bought this property right here. All right. So what I do is I go to, so let's take a step back. Edgewood's 3-bed, 2-bath, 1628 square foot. Okay, 3-bed, 2-bath, 16. So we want to find comparable homes that have sold, whether it's a 3-1, 3-2, maybe a 3-3, and in the same square footage area as the property that we're looking at buying. All right. So we'll go sold. We'll leave the price there. We'll change beds, 3-bed, and then we could do, I normally would do 1+ bath. Home type, it's a single family home. And then square foot, this one's 1628, so we'll look at 1250 to 1750. And we'll go sold in the last 6 months. All right, and so now you're able to pull up and see in this area what has sold in the last 6 months that's comparable to the home you're looking. Now, I have already been through this, so I'm going to show you the homes that I found and then how I made my decision, on whether I was going to move forward with this property or not. Okay, so we'll start with 401 Oak Drive. All right, 401 Oak Drive, sold on April 27th. When I look at this home, you can tell it's in great condition. It's been flipped like we're gonna do. New bathroom, new flooring, new countertops. It's been painted. Everything looks like it's, turnkey, ready to rock and roll. So then what I look at is I take the sales price, $229,000, all right, plug it into my calculator. You guys, I'm sharing my screen so you can't see that. And then I will divide it by the square footage. So 229,000 divided by 1250. That tells me that this home sold for $183 a square foot. All right? So I make a note of that. This home sold in April at $183 a square foot. Then I'm going to go to another comp. 310 Moultrie Square. Okay, there's not any more pictures on here, but this one sold for $299,000. You can tell it's been renovated. There were pictures on here at one time. It was listed around the same time that I was buying mine. So 299,000 divided by 1750 tells you this one sold at 170 a square foot. Then we look at James Avenue, and we take 290,000 divided by 1,500. That tells us this one sold at 193 a square foot. All right, so we've got, just call it 170, 180, and 190. Okay? I'm a pretty simple dude, so I was like, you know what? Let's just meet in the middle. And you can find more comps, like if you get them that are a little wide range like this, you can narrow it down, and I did. But let's say, you narrow it down and you're like, you know what? It meets in the middle around $180 a square foot is what I feel conservatively that I can get for this home right here. So then we're going to take 1628. Y'all tracking? This is the square footage of the home that I was buying. That's how many square foot, and then we're going to multiply it by 180. And that tells us that the after repair value of 2903 Edgewood Avenue, the property that I bought at the time that I was looking at buying, is $293,000. $293,000. Okay, now I'm going to come off this. Everybody tell me if you're tracking, type in the chat, say tracking. I want to make sure everybody is with me. Just type tracking in the chat. Perfect. Now, I'm going to put a link in the chat once y'all stop typing tracking that allows you to do this a lot quicker. So I'll hit briefly on the funding here in a little bit, but one of the partners that I use to fund have an analyzing tool that I will use a lot of times to pull my comps that takes like 10 seconds. So this is going to be manual, and you're going to need to know what you're looking for. Backflip literally has the AI built in to where you plug in the address and it will spit out what it thinks the comparable home prices are and what this home is going to be worth after you fix it up. Now, I am still old school. I teach all my students how to do it like this. I still do it like this. And then I go to Backflip and I say, what does Backflip say? And I see how accurate we are, because if I'm going to work with a lender, I need their numbers to be pretty darn close to mine. And so I'll post this. If anybody, you do not have to use this whatsoever. It just takes about 10 seconds to analyze, and it's a lot quicker. And there's probably different apps that do it, so you'll want to download this on your phone. If you don't want to use it, that's A-okay, don't care. But it is unbelievably fast. You just plug it in, and then it gives you a whole bunch of data as well. Okay, and so it's just a quick way to do it, to go the expedited process. All right, so we know our ARV, right? 293K. Let's go back to our formula. Is what our home's going to be worth. Roughly. Now that's a rough ball, but it could go anywhere. I think when I plugged this into Backflip Capital, it said 296. Okay, so call it 290 to 300. Then we're going to multiply that times 70%. All right, so let's do that math. Everybody take your calculator out. 293,000 times 70%. That tells us this is going to be 205. 205K. Now, we don't want to buy it at 205,000 because we still have rehab that we need to factor in. So then we have to, are you going to have this video on YouTube? Probably not. I don't know. I am recording it. I got this ugly mic on my shirt and I got the camera. So we'll see, but it definitely is going to be sent back out to you guys for a replay afterwards. Okay. So you got 293 times 70%, that gives you 205. Now we got to subtract our rehab. All right. Now this is not a rehab lesson. So if you guys may get off this call and get mad because I didn't spend enough time telling you how to rehab, that is an entire process in itself. But I'm going to give you some tips and tools to help you to be able to do it. The best way, okay, to be able to rehab, to get your rehab costs, is have contractors go out and quote you. 2 to 3 contractors. See what the median price is, just like I did with ARV, and you'll get a ballpark of what it's going to cost you to rehab the property. Another good metric is it could cost you, depending on how bad shape the property is in, and this is where you got to have a coach in your corner or experience in your corner, we can use the square footage method. Okay, how much is it going to cost me per square foot to rehab this property? I knew, based off my experience, that this was going to be around $30 a square foot. Why? Because I don't have to go and gut the whole property. If I was going to have to gut that entire property, let's say take all the sheetrock, replace all the electrical, replace all the plumbing, we're probably looking at around $40 a square foot, maybe $45. But because a lot of this was cosmetic, I knew that we were going to be able to do this for around $30 a square foot. Okay? And so when you take 1628 and you multiply it by 30, that gives you around $50,000 of what it's going to cost to rehab this property. Well, I don't just do the square footage method. I do it at the beginning to give myself an idea like, yeah, I'm probably going to have to do around $50,000. Then I had contractors quote me. You guys want to guess what the contractors quoted me? $52,000. So it's pretty darn close. Okay? And so we're going to take 205. Does that make sense? Everybody good there? Type yes in the chat if you're good with that. Perfect. Perfect, perfect. 205, and then we're going to subtract 50,000. And that's going to tell us our purchase price. What does that give us? 205 minus 50. That means I need to buy that property at $155K to leave myself meat on the bone. Okay? Now, I got it at $148,000. So I originally got it under contract. This is a whole lesson in itself. Got it under contract at $150, and then I leveraged the inspection report before I closed to get another $2,000 off. There's been times I've leveraged inspection reports to get another $20,000 off. Okay? But that's a whole lesson in itself. And so we're all in. We bought it at $148, and we got a rehab at $50. So that puts me in, my calculator will work, $198, call it 200 grand. What did I tell you guys the ARV was? 293, 293K minus 200K equals $93,000. Anybody here okay with making a gross profit of $93,000? If you're okay with it, type me in the chat. I'm okay with it. I'm pretty darn excited about it because, to be honest with you, that's a lot of money on the flip. So Erica, she is one of the students we work with. She's now a coach. She just did a flip, her and her husband, for $103,000 gross profit. I'm like, bro, I've never done. So then I'm like, well, I gotta go compete with this. And so I went out and found me a deal that paid me 93. I still didn't beat her. She still got me beat. Now, every deal, this is what I call a home run. This is a great flip. It's just a great flip. And you want to know what's crazy about it? This was listed on the MLS and it sat for over 30 days. If anybody is telling you that you can't find deals, I can't believe it. I personally will not believe it, because this property, you can go back and check me right now. I'll do it right now so you guys believe me. Share my screen, go back. I think it was 30 days. Now I'm second guessing myself. I'm scared. It was close. Let's see. Price history. All right, listed at a lot longer than 20 days. Look at this. January, and it was listed before then. So we'll just, since November, really. Then January, dropped the price in April, and then this is when your boy scooped in and said, yep, I'll take that. I'd been negotiating earlier on in the process for a lower price, and they wouldn't budge. Then when they dropped it to 150, I tried to negotiate again. They wouldn't budge, and I said, you know what? What's the lowest you'll take? She said 148. No, she took it 150, and then I negotiated the inspection report down to 148. But guys, this sat on the MLS, open to everybody. Wholesalers, other investors, the general public, it was there. And so there are deals like this all over the place. You just have to know where to look, like we talked about earlier, where to look, market, generating leads. This was an easy generation, right? This was literally listed right in front of my face. I just had to know how to find it. Figured out how to analyze it, knew how to analyze it. Then I funded it with Backflip Capital. It was easy. I'll tell you about the funding here in a second. And then rehabbed with Backflip Capital. And so this whole deal is $200,000, right? I'm all in at $200,000. Y'all remember? Let's just say I bought it for $150. I know it was $148, but we're doing easy math here. Put 50 in, so I'm all in at 200. All right. You know how much I had to bring to the closing table for the purchase and the rehab on this property? $20K. That came from a line of credit from a private investor. And so when you look at my personal cash-on-cash return on this, I may cover some of the holding costs because you're going to have holding costs from the lender. So it's about, I think it's $1,400 or $1,500 a month that I have the loan out with backflip. I have to pay them interest-only payments until the loan is due. But all we had to come up with on the front end was $20,000. And I say all, I understand that's not a small chunk of change, but it doesn't have to be yours. There are people all across the country who want to lend to deals that you can show people, hey man, I'm buying this at $150 and I'm gonna be all in at $200. It's gonna be worth $293. I'm gonna make $93,000. You mind lending to me for 14% interest? I'll have it done in 4 to 6 months. Like, there's people all over the world. I've got a little saying I want to trademark and put it on this other wall over here. Find deals, get money. Like, you find deals like this, the money's easy to come by. The lenders are chomping at the bit to be able to lend to these. And so the way I structure that, just again to give you guys, make sure everybody understands, is they use what's called a hard money lender. They funded 90% of purchase and rehab. 90% of purchase and the rehab. And all you got to do is get to the closing table and cover your holding cost. If you're tracking with me, everybody say tracking. Everybody say tracking. Is this good? Y'all learning stuff? Is this what you came here for? I want to make sure everybody's getting value. That is the only reason I do these, is to make sure everybody's got value on these. Yeah.
So you pulled the $30 per square footage for the ARV. Can you go over that one more time? How you got that?
Yep, so just like an industry standard, if you're having to do like not a super in-depth rehab, more cosmetic, it's just going to be $30 per square foot of the home. So whatever the home square footage is. So this home that I bought, square footage was a 1,628. So I took that and multiplied it by 30, and that told me rehab was going to be roughly around $50,000. So it's just a quick view of, okay, I'm probably going to be in that $50,000 ballpark. It could be anywhere from $40,000 to $60,000, but that gives you a good ballpark range until you can go get contractors to give you quotes. Cool. All right. Y'all say any other questions you have about flipping, throw them in the chat real quick, because I'm going to move on to what it would look like when I was trying to make this work as a rental. Somebody said, make my screen the only view. Oh, y'all are asking me to do some wild stuff here. Pin it. Let's see. Hold on. So you guys got to help me, because let's try. I just pinned it. Everybody good? Is that me now? All right, hopefully that worked. All right. Cool. Somebody said you want to stick to your local market. No. You do not need to stick to your local market. Y'all save these questions for at the end. I will answer all that stuff. But no, I teach close to 200 people, and I would say 70% of them don't invest in their local market. And I'll tell you more about how we overcome that here in a little bit. If I don't tell you, then just remind me, okay? And I'll make sure to tell you. All right, so let's look at this from a rental, like from the BRRRR perspective, because I love the BRRRR method. If you know what the BRRRR method is, type BRRRR in the chat. Okay, if you know what the BRRRR method is, type BRRRR in the chat. And then if you do know what it is, hang with me for 1 second. Because I'm going to give a quick explanation, and then I'll show you how I went through this. So, BRRRR. Now, I got to tell you, when I started buying real estate, I didn't know, nobody knew this lingo. It's cool. I think Brandon Turner put this on there. I'm mad that he gets the credit for figuring out this strategy. And I'm like, bro, I was doing this strategy before you made it cool. But that's beside the point. I figured this out because I bought my first 2 properties in 2018. And I used my own money. So I saved up all the money I could, put 20% down, and then paid out of my own pocket to rehab the 2 properties. And so I had like 50 grand locked up total. And so that was like all I had. Like I had saved up that much, and it cost me, I don't know, call it 20 grand for each property as a down payment, and then another 30 or another 15 to rehab them both each, or something along those lines. I was only at around 50,000. And so I get to the end of 2018, and I was like, okay, this is awesome. I know that if I keep buying these, it's going to give me this, but I don't have any more money. And so we got a problem. What do we do now? And so this is when I implemented the strategy, which is now known as BRRRR, which is where you essentially, you're going to buy a home undervalued, okay? Undervalued and distressed. It's going to be in bad shape. Then, and oftentimes when we buy this home, okay, we're going to buy it using hard money, like I would do for a flip I just told you about, like somebody like Backflip Capital, or you're going to use private money, so somebody in your network who will lend to you, or you can use your own money, or you can use a HELOC, or you can use a combination of all of them. The whole point is we are going to do what's called a bridge loan to get this done, okay? This money that we're using to buy and rehab on the front end is just a short-term bridge loan. Just like the hard money for a flip, they're going to loan you this money at interest-only payments for 365 days. You're going to pay those interest-only payments for as long as they have the loan out, and then as soon as you refinance out into a long-term note with the bank, you're going to pay these original lenders off. Does that make sense? You guys tracking? Type tracking if you're tracking with me. And then we'll have a long-term stable loan, okay? And so that's what we're going to do with BRRRR. We're going to buy it with that money. We're going to rehab it with that money, okay? And then we are going to get a renter in place, which, just FYI, friends, this is not a necessity. There's this talk that you have to have a renter in place before you refinance the property on the back end. That's just not true. I have done refinances while I'm in the middle of rehab, because the bank has an understanding of the ARV, like we talked about earlier, what it's going to be worth on the back end, okay? But anyways, that's what they coined this saying as, and so we'll just say get a renter in place, but you don't have to. Then we're going to go and refinance that property with a local bank. Okay, so we used a bridge loan on the front end to buy it with high interest to be able to rehab it and get it all ready to rock and roll to be able to be rented. Well, we don't want to keep that high interest loan. Number one, you can only have it out for 1 year. Number two, you're paying like 12 to 13% interest. It's just a tool to get you to the closing table and get the rehab done. Then we're going to go to a small local bank, and we're going to get what they call a commercial loan or a portfolio loan or a DSCR. That's another buzzword on social media. I didn't even know that it was called a DSCR loan until last year. I've been doing real estate a long time, but everybody wants to say DSCR loan. But they're all the same thing, okay? They're going to lend to your LLC and let you do what's called a cash out refinance, okay? So here's what they're going to do. Everybody still with me? Y'all good? You're going to do a cash out refinance. So it's similar to what you were going to do with a flip, okay? But the formula is a little bit different. So let's pretend that after you've bought this property with hard money, you've renovated it, you got it rented out, and you go to refinance, the bank says, I will now lend you 80% of the new appraised value. It was ugly, now it's worth more. The bank's saying, I will lend you 80% of what it's worth now. And because you don't have debt with an institution, you bought that house in cash, whether it was private money or hard money, the bank is going to write you a check, your LLC a check, for 80% of the new appraised value. Okay, so like up to 80%. You can do less or more, or less, but up to 80%. And so like on the example I just showed you, Edgewood, we said it was going to be worth $293,000. So the bank would write me a check if I wanted to keep this as a rental for $234,000. That's 80%. They would write me a check. Okay? Now, you may say, well, why didn't you do that? I'm getting to that because there's a factor that comes in when you're dealing with rentals known as rent. And so if you're going to, whatever this refi amount is, you're going to have a new loan on that, and so you have to make sure that your rents are going to be able to keep up with that new loan, okay? And I'll show you how we go through that. So the formula I use for BRRRR is ARV, if they're going to loan me 70%, times 75% minus rehab equals purchase price, okay? Minus rehab equals purchase price. This is going to make sure you're covered with your closing costs and your holding costs when you go at 75% instead of 80%, and it gives you the best chance of doing what we call a clean BRRRR. Okay, so there's a lot of different things, and I feel like I'm getting in the weeds here, so if I need to pull back, y'all just say pull back, and I'll relax, and we won't go as far in the weeds. But when you do what I call a clean BRRRR, means when you go to refinance at the end after you've rehabbed that property into a long-term stable loan with the bank, clean BRRRR means you're able to pay back all the money that you had into it on the front end. All the down payment, all the holding costs, all the rehab. Okay, and this 75% number gives you the best chance to do that. Now, there are some BRRRRs that I have done where I've got money back at closing. Okay, they wrote me, the bank appraised the property, wrote me a check for 80%, and let's say the 80% was $140,000. They wrote me a check for $140,000. Well, I only owed the hard money lender $125,000. And so I was able to keep that $15,000 in my bank account. Just check that stays in my bank account, and I don't have to pay taxes on it. Okay? You guys tracking with me on that? Type tracking if you're tracking, because I feel like I'm getting in the weeds here, and I don't want to lose you guys. And I will answer and clarify in Q&A at the end, but just type tracking, and we'll take a break for a second and make sure you guys are with me. If you're not tracking, say, hold up. Uh-oh, Christina said, hold up. Christina, can you come off mute? What you got? Yep.
And what's that? What was that 80%? The 80% you said it's what the bank will give you back?
Yes. So the bank's going to write you a check after you've renovated that property and you go to do what's called a cash out refinance with a small local bank. They're going to write you a check for 80%, right? But throughout the process, you're going to have costs associated, such as your holding cost and such as your closing cost. Okay? And so to make sure that we don't have to pay those out of pocket and that we can cover them with this refi amount, it's good to use a 75% metric instead of 80. Does that make sense?
Now, yeah, so the difference between the 70 that you did for the flip, this one is 75 just because it's a BRRRR.
Exactly. Yeah, we don't need as much, traditionally, we don't need as much, what's the word I'm looking for, like a gap. Like we don't need as much cushion because we shouldn't have to refi, or we shouldn't have to renovate quite as much. So we don't need it. We don't need the property at such a deep discount. Now, if you can get it at 70%, great. But you can do BRRRR at 75% and still get the majority of your money back.
Okay, I think I got it. Yeah.
Yep. And if we need to clarify it more here in a little bit, you can. Now, there's been times where I will put 80% here. Okay, and I'll buy it at 80% because I don't want the deal to go to waste, but I end up leaving $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 in the deal. You guys with me on that? And that's okay. And that's where experience in real estate comes in. Everybody wants to do BRRRR because they want to have no money left in the deal. And that's fantastic. Like, we don't want to have money left in the deal. But if we do have to have money left in the deal, it's okay. Imagine you're buying a $150,000 house, okay? And we have to buy it traditionally without doing the BRRRR method. That means we're going to have to put 20% down on this property to buy it. That's $30,000. Yeah, keep doing percentage. That's $30K down payment before rehab that you're going to have locked up into a property if you buy it traditionally. Whereas if we do the BRRRR, and let's say we don't even get a clean BRRRR, we don't get all of our money back, but we're able to get it to where we only have 3 to 5K in the deal. That's pretty awesome. Wouldn't you guys agree? That skyrockets your cash on cash return. Okay, now there's a whole reason why you would do traditional 20% down compared to BRRRR And I may hit on that in a minute. And the main difference is going to be cash on cash return versus cash flow. You're going to have higher cash flow if you put 20% down on a property. You're going to have lower cash flow if you BRRRR a property. But you're going to have lower cash on cash return if you put 20% down and higher cash on cash return if you BRRRR. Okay, and so all it means is you're going to have less money in this deal right here. And so the return on your investment is going to be higher even though your monthly payout will be lower. And so I'm going places I don't want to go today because I feel like I'm going to lose some of y'all, but I will keep a portfolio balanced. I personally try to keep mine balanced to where I will stack as many of these BRRRR deals as I can without having to put my own money in, even though cash flow isn't going to be good. I am buying them without having much money at all. So I'm just stacking assets. And then I get appreciation over time while tenants are paying down my debt and the property's still at least breaking even or cash flowing 100, 150 bucks a month. And then there are times where I will buy properties traditionally because I want to level out the portfolio and say I want to increase some cash flow here. Okay, and so then I will buy property 20% down and it'll be able to cash flow, you know, 500, 600, 700 bucks. I'm doing a duplex right now, buying it traditionally, it's going to cash flow $1,000 bucks a month. Okay, and so those are just kind of the different strategies that we work through. I work through myself and I work through with the people that I work with to make sure we're keeping the portfolio balanced. And there's other ways that we can, if we were trying to generate cash, that we can do it outside of cash flow. One of them is flipping, like we just talked about earlier. Okay, all right, I'm going to take it back to this property real quick before I get confused on what I'm talking about because I am in the weeds here. I hope you guys are still getting something from this and this is making sense. Okay, all right, so let's look at this property as a BRRRR. All right, I'm actually going to go back to the screen for this and then I'll come to the calculator. All right, so she wanted $148,000. 148K. Okay. And so I was going to have to put in for rehab on the BRRRR when you're doing cosmetic stuff. So you're going to have to do less work. You're not going to have to do as much work. You're going to be at around $20 a square foot. So we're at 1628 times $20. So let's say I was going to be in rehab at $30,000 instead of $50. And I probably could have been in it at less than that. But let's just say that it was going to be $30,000 in rehab. Okay? That puts me all into this property. Actually, we'll do it for less, just for teaching's sake. Let's say we had to put 20K in. Okay? That puts us all in at $168,000 if we were trying to BRRRR this property. Now we knew that the ARV for a flip was going to be $293. It would have been a little bit less if I would have rehabbed it to be a rental instead of a flip because we wouldn't have gone all out with the finishes. So let's just say the ARV would have been $250,000. Okay? That means that the bank, let's see, we're in, what did I say we were at? We're in at 168, it'll be 250. So we do 250,000 times 75%. Remember our formula. Okay, ARV times 75%. So 250 times 75% gives us 187, and we were going to put $20,000 into it. That means we would need to buy this property at 167 for it to make sense, okay? Because where we are today, or no, that's not right, excuse me, 250,000. Yeah, 167 for it to make sense for the cash out purposes, okay? All right, so that means that we would be all in. Let's just say we're all in at 168. Okay, so we buy the property 148, we put 20 in, we're all in at 168. And so we got to get 168 back to get our money back from purchasing this property. So that means the new loan on this property is going to be around $168,000 to get our money back. All right? And so when I looked at that from a BRRRR perspective, if I go to my calculator here, and I have a BRRRR calculator for our group. This is the standard calculator, so I'll talk you through how I would do this on a standard calculator. When we go to refi, we said the new amount is going to be $168,000. Okay, that's after we've done our cash out refi. So this is going to be our new loan amount. All right. The interest rate that I got quoted for this property was 6.3% on a 20-year. Actually, it was 5.8 on this particular property. If 5.8% on a 20-year note, $1,500 in rent, and then I factor in all of my assumptions and expenses. So let's talk through these. The national average vacancy rate is going to be 5%. So we got to account for 5% vacancy rate. See, a lot of people think that rent minus mortgage, okay, rent minus mortgage gives you your cash flow. That's not true. You got rent minus mortgage, but then you also have vacancy rates. We also have maintenance rates, which average is going to be around 10%. We have property management. If you're going to use a property manager, that's going to be around 10%. Insurance is going to be around $800 a year, and property taxes are going to be around $2,200 a year. So it spits out on this side what our cash flow, cash on cash return, and cap rates are going to be. So we're going to focus on cash flow and cash on cash return. Is anybody interested in buying a property for negative $302 in cash flow and negative 21% cash on cash return? If you're interested in buying that, type me in the chat. For me, I wasn't interested in buying this at such terrible returns. I said, okay, that's not good returns on my money. Like, I can do something better with my money than get, or somebody else's money. What private lender is going to want to lend to that, then make negative cash flow every month and have negative, percentage on my cash on cash return. And so then I said, okay, what does this look like if I buy it traditionally? Okay, so traditional buy is going to be, look, we got it under contract at $148K. And so then we're going to put 20% down as a down payment. So 148 times 20% down. That means we're going to put 30K as our down payment. So that leaves our loan amount at 118. So let's see what that looks like. We'll plug this into the calculator knowing that rents, and I'll tell you how we find rents in that area, are $1,500 a month. And I'll walk you through that here in a second. So we're going to go back to the calculator. We tried the Burr method. We were making negative $300 a month and terrible cash on cash return. So then let's go and see, what does this look like buying it traditionally? So we got $148,000 purchase price. Then we got $30,000 down payment. $1,500 in rent, all of our assumptions and expenses, and this is what this property looked like as a traditional buy, okay? Now, I've been doing this a long time, and so I understand that year one pro formas, this is what is called a year one pro forma. This is what it's going to look like in year one. You can't just make decisions based on a year one pro forma, okay? Because it depends where each person is at. If you have a high income coming in and you have money that you're wanting to invest, this could still be an okay place to store money, but you just have to look, and I didn't even add, my closing costs. Oh Lord, I didn't update those from a different property. It will not be that high. Okay, as you can see, it does not affect my cash on cash return much. I didn't want $30,000 plus closing and then rehab, which I hadn't even added in, to be tied up for that long, right? So we got $30,000 for down payment, $30,000 for rehab. We're $60,000 into this property if we buy it traditionally, and we've only got $51 a month coming in cash flow and 2% cash on cash return. Now, over time, rents are going to increase. I think rents have increased every year for 100%, or every year for 100 years. Okay, and there's a 95% occupancy rate in the U.S. So you're going to get your property rented, and rents are going to go up. And then it's going to go up in value while rents are going up. So there will be a day where you would be able to refi this property, kind of like a Burr, but it will be 3-4 years down the road. And so you just have to make that decision. Am I okay with sinking $60,000 into this deal for 2, 3, 4 years? I wasn't. Especially when I looked at what I told you guys earlier, and I said, okay, I can sink all this money into this deal, get terrible returns, or I can go and flip this and make $93,000. And so while it hurt me, and it still hurts me, I still, every week when I go look at that property or get pictures about the property, I'm like, I know in 10 years, I'm going to be frustrated that I didn't keep that property. I know I'll be frustrated that I didn't keep it, because it will be very good. But then I look and I say, what could I do if I was able to keep that 60 grand that I have and then make myself $93,000 more gross, which, when we bring that home, call it 55 grand, 60 grand. What could I do instead of locking up 60 grand in this terrible property returns, instead keep that and then add 60 grand? In 10 years, could I do more with that money that I'm gonna make today than I would by holding on to this property? And I ultimately made the decision that I'm betting on myself, that if I can generate myself $50,000 to $60,000 more, then I can make it worth more over 10 years. Does that make sense? You guys following me? Type following in the chat if you're following. Don asks why a 20-year mortgage instead of a 15 or 30. Most commercial notes are going to be a 20-year amortization. 20-year amortization on most commercial notes. So a lot of times you won't get a 30-year amortization. You can do rental properties in your personal name up to a certain amount, and then you're going to affect your debt to income ratio. Okay, so they will loan you. Like, I could have bought this rental under my personal name and got a 30-year mortgage on it. It would have helped the cash flow. I probably would have broke even. Still wouldn't have been a great deal. But it affects Jaron Sustar's debt to income ratio. Okay, whereas when you buy on commercial loans, it does not affect your personal debt to income ratio. That's what allows investors to have 30, 40, 50, 100, 200 properties, is because when they go to pull your credit, those do not show. Those houses that you own do not show in your personal credit and their income producing assets. Tony, instead of the view only, just download it. Yeah, Christina, commercial loans are under an LLC. Tony, instead of trying to download or download it to your computer. If you just click download, it'll work. And so this is how I analyze. And so, to put a bow on this, I know some of you may be thinking, you may ask this in the Q&A, maybe I'll be able to attack it before then. What are you looking for when it comes to cash flow and cash on cash return? It's a question I get a lot. It's hard to say. I don't have a set number. If I could have got those numbers that I showed you, because I have income coming in through my business, through rental properties, if I could have if you remember back to what the example I just showed you of buying it traditionally, where it was going to pay me $50 a month, okay? It was going to pay me $50 a month, right? I wasn't going to do that sinking 60 grand into the deal. But because this property is in a B-class area, it's in a really good area in a growing part of town, if I could have bird this and got into this property without having my own money in, and then be making $50 a month year one, I would have kept this in my portfolio. Not everybody can do that, and that's where you have to work with each person strategically to say, what position are you in? What do you need to accomplish? I can. And so I know, cash flow year one sucks, but I have cash flow coming in. And even if there's months where I have to pay $200-300 a month for whatever reason, okay, like don't spend as much on dinner. I can't go to Longhorns 4 times that month. It's like, I would rather pay $200 a month to own an asset than $200 a month to subscriptions and a country club and whatever else. And so, if I can bird that, then I'm okay with that. If I am buying traditionally, like where I'm going to sink my money into it, my money's going to be tied up for a few years, I am looking most of the time for $500 a month or more in cash flow. So this duplex I'm doing is going to be $1,000 a month. One of the Airbnbs that I have does $850 a month. I just bought and it's per property. I just closed on a property. I think, Michael, you saw it. I saw your DM in like a C minus side of town for 60 grand, and I put my money down. It's going to rent for probably $1,000. And so I'm going to cash flow $400 there. Right. And so it just depends on what your strategies are. Cash on cash return. The great thing about BRRRR is you can get infinity cash on cash return. If you get into a deal without any of your own money, your returns are infinite, because you've just bought an asset. What's so powerful about BRRRR is you've just bought an asset with none of your money left in the deal. So now you own this asset that's worth $150, you owe 120 on it, you automatically have 30 grand in equity, and now we just let compound interest do its thing. Over time, that property is going to be worth, 160, 170, 200, 250, and your debt's going to be getting paid down. And so, anyways, that's what's so powerful about the different strategies. These are only two ways to buy: traditional and burr and flipping. But there's also, I'm working with a girl that I coach right now who they're doing a seller finance deal. She didn't have much capital put in the deal, and so she's able to do seller finance and still get cash flow. And just there's so many different ways you can go in it, but it all starts with being able to analyze, and you got to know, what is this property going to be worth? Okay, when I get done making it nice, what am I going to have to put rehab in it? What do I need to buy it at? And then rents. And that's the last thing I want to show you guys. So if you want to know how to figure out what your rents are, best way to do it is call local property managers to your area. Okay, that's the best way to find out what rents are going to be. Second best way, and I use this app a lot. Let's see if I can get it pulled up. Is Rentometer. Okay, this is what most property managers use anyway. It's just, do you want to pay? I think it's like $75 a year. It's pretty inexpensive. Do you want to pay, or do you want to have to reach out to a property manager every time? I've got to the point where a lot of times I will just come into here. And so I knew what Edgewood was going to rent for because I bought in that area before. But if you don't, you just type in the address, what you're looking to do. Type in the 3 beds, 1.5 or more baths, hit analyze. Boom. Average rent, $1,549. And so, it doesn't have to be rocket science. You can look and say, okay, Rentometer pulls all the data. It knows, and you'll have a good idea of, hey, I'll be able to rent this for somewhere around $1,350 to $1,500. And so then when you're playing with your numbers on the front end, trying to make it work as a burr or trying to make it work as a traditional buy, you can feel confident going in saying, okay, I know my rents are going to be this, right? And I know my expenses are going to be this. Industry standards are 5% vacancy, 10% maintenance, and all that stuff can change. Like maintenance can change depending on what you've done in a property. If you've burred a property and you fix all the big issues, you think you're going to have a 10% maintenance rate every month? Probably not, right? And so it's just very subjective per deal and what you're doing. So cool. Did everybody like this? If you like this, just type thank you. That'll work. I mean, that sounds kind of conceited, but maybe I should have done it. Or amazing. Yeah, I like amazing better. Thank you, Shiloh. Amazing. All right, cool. So I'm going to tell you guys, and let's see, who's this? Jeff. Yeah, you can ask that in a second. Give me 1 second. So I'm going to give you guys an opportunity. I always do this. I try to provide value, and I'm not pushy. Nobody on our team is pushy, but I want to give you an opportunity. If you're like, all right, bro, like I'm ready to do this, to be able to work with myself and our team, okay? So I'll do this very quickly, and then I'm going to open it up for questions. But I want to tell you guys how we can help if you're just like, okay, like I get the analyzing part. I don't know if I can do it by myself on every deal. And what about all the other things, okay? So if you remember earlier, I'm going to stand up for a second because my legs are hurting. All right, if you remember earlier, y'all hang with me because we're about to do Q&A, so don't go anywhere. I talked about there's 5 things that you have to be good at in real estate to be successful. Choosing a market, generating leads, analyzing, which we talked about today, funding, and managing. Okay? I've been coaching people for a while now. Darius, I see you on here. He's in our group. I think there's a number of people in our group here. I have learned that the themes, these are the 5 things. These are the biggest things you got to know, and these are the biggest roadblocks. And so my job as a coach is to say, how do I remove these roadblocks? Like, that's what I have for me. I don't want to get too far into my story. My best friend Gaston got into real estate right out of college and did these things for me. Help me choose a market, help me generate leads, analyze my deals with me, taught me how to get funding, and then helped me put management in place. And so when I created our community in November, I was like, okay, I need to be able to do this for folks. And so what we have created is a community called the Rental Academy. All right, Rental Academy. And we do a lot of things in the Rental Academy, but when I break it down into the 2 biggest things that we do is I teach you, I, myself, and our 3 other coaches teach you how to choose markets, how to generate leads, how to analyze deals, how to fund properties, and how to manage. Okay, whether you're managing rehab or whether you're managing rentals. I am a big believer in the old saying, teach a man to fish, he'll never go hungry. Okay, so I believe whenever somebody comes into my world that they need to know how to do this. They need to learn it. Okay, so we spend a lot of time teaching how to do this. I'm on every week teaching for hours every week. Erica's on for a week teaching for hours. There's 120 hours or more of trainings. There's a community chatting about stuff all the time. So we're going to teach you things. But I think what we've been able to do, and Darius and some of you guys in the Rental Academy, I have not even launched this to y'all yet, so first to know. Teaching people have been amazing, but what we said is, how can we make our product even better to, once they know it, I'm going to make you learn it. I'm going to stay on you and you're going to learn it, but how can we do it with them? How can we go on this journey with them? And so what we've done is we've gone through each of these things and put things in place to remove that roadblock. So we'll start with choosing a market. Most people have to invest out of state. If you can invest in your market, you don't even have to deal with that. Kudos to you. 70% of the people I teach can't buy where they live. It's just too expensive. And so what we have done, in addition to teaching people how to narrow down markets and build out your team and all that stuff, we're going to show you how to do it. Now we've taken it a step further and we've done it for you. And so you come into the Rental Academy, you are going to have an onboarding call to where we are going to pair you up in a market with people we have built out, with a team we've built out in, we got 15 to 20 different markets. We're going to sit down and talk about your goals. What are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to burr? Are you trying to buy straight up? Are you trying to do creative finance? Are you trying to do fix and flips? And then we're going to put you with partners in the market that fits your need. So we're going to customize what you need, and then people that I have built relationships with, that I have been building out this network, we're going to put you in contact with them, okay? And they are going to be agents on the ground. What that's going to do is these partners that I have built for you are then going to teach you everything it is you need to know about their market so you can feel confident after we've gone over it with you. Then they're going to start generating you leads. You can't buy deals without leads. Now don't forget, we're going to teach you how to do this yourself, but now we're also going to give you the opportunity to partner up with folks who generate these leads for you. On-market deals and off-market deals. You're going to sit down, you're going to talk with them. After you've talked with us, tell them exactly what you're trying to do, and now leads will come in. Okay, but the work's not done. You've got leads. Shoot, we've got a market, we got leads. Those are the two first roadblocks. That's 1 and 2, baby, and I have knocked it out of the way for you. That is when you join our community, it's not a roadblock anymore. Now you're saying, all right, dude, you told me how to analyze today. How in the world am I going to be able to do that by myself and feel confident? Well, you don't have to. Any deal that you come across that you want looked at, we analyze it for you. My inbox stays full with properties that I analyze all day long. I'm going to work with it through you on email. I'm going to hop on a phone call. I'm going to call you. I'm going to talk about it. We're going to strategize. Just like I did with my property today, we're going to say, what's your goals? Do you want to keep this? Do you want to try and burr it? Are you okay with sinking some money into it? Or is there an opportunity for us to flip it? Or do none of these things work? Do we need to do seller financing? Or is this just a terrible deal? I get tons of terrible deals, and I'll call them. I'm like, hey, this isn't the deal that you need. Let's go back to the drawing board and narrow down, again, what we're trying to do, what we're trying to accomplish, where we need to be looking, who we need to be partnering with, so we can be analyzing good deals, and so we're ready to pounce. So we're going to put you in the markets, generate leads for you, analyze those leads with you, and then we're going to hook you up with funding partners, okay? So I'm going to hook you up with bridge lenders, so all the hard money lenders that I use, you're going to have access to them day one. Not only that, is if you need to burr, you can use these folks on the front end, but then we've built out a network through our partners here of local lenders. And so whatever market you break into, you're going to have partners to generate you leads, and then you're going to have partners for local lenders on the back end, should you burr or should you just want to buy a rental straight up. And then last, management. One of the hardest things in real estate to date, even for yours truly, is finding contractors and managing them. And so this has been something that I have worked on, and it's been a passion of mine when we were looking to say, how do we make this product even better? How do we remove roadblocks for anybody who joins our community? In this network, Not only do you got the people generating leads, you got the local lenders, you also got contractor partners, you've also got property management waiting on you. You don't have to go searching for that. You've also got insurance, don't have to go searching for that. You've also got closing attorneys, you don't have to go searching for that. You got title companies, you've got LLC creations, all of it, it's all there. And so, I don't know how else to say it other than you're going to come in, you're going to learn everything you need to know about real estate. We're going to make sure you know everything you need to know about real estate. And then we're going to plug you in to our partners across the country depending on your goals, and you're going to start buying. And we're going to be there to make sure you're getting good properties, you've analyzed correctly, help you get funding in place, make sure your asset corrections in place. Day one, you'll have an onboarding call, and we'll get you set up to get your entities in place if you don't have them already. That's going to be knocked out of the way. We're going to tell you exactly how to do it. You need help with taxes, we're going to help you out with people with taxes. And then we're going to start teaching you how to do this stuff, pair you up in the right market. Leads are going to come in, we're going to analyze them with you, tell you how to fund it, put you in contact with people to fund it, get the contractors and property managers in place, and you're done with deal one. Now it's on to deal two. And so we've spent so much time building this out, and our thing is, look, if we're going to coach you for an entire year, and if you haven't bought your first or next property, you know, we got people in there with 0 properties, we got people in there with 10 plus properties. If you haven't bought by us working together for a year, which is crazy, then we'll keep coaching you until you do. But I have a feeling that you'll have bought a lot more than one property after a year. So I want to type this into the chat. If you want to sign up, I'm taking these calls personally. I set aside my calendar for tonight, I think till, I don't know what time, tomorrow and Thursday. I'm taking these calls, okay? If you don't talk to me, most of you guys will talk to me. One of our teammates, Preston, would be the other person that you're going to talk to if you don't get me, just because my calendar's full. But I want to chat with you individually. Where are you at? What are you trying to accomplish? I've already told you kind of what we do here. We can go more in depth, clarify anything, and I want to get you guys rocking and rolling, okay? I would encourage you, don't keep putting it off. Even if you don't work with me, you never schedule a call, that's fine. I just hope I provided value for you today. I hope I provide value with my content every week. But you can't, for the 63% of y'all on this call who voted you don't own investment real estate yet, you gotta go. You gotta start buying. You can't sit on the sidelines anymore. No more analysis by paralysis. Like, you just have to dive in. That's all there is to it. If you keep waiting, you'll always keep waiting, and then it'll be 10 years from now and you won't have any property. So we'd love to have you. We have a fantastic group. We got 4 different coaches. Monday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern. Thursdays, 2 p.m. Eastern. Once a month on another Tuesday at like 7 p.m. Eastern, we just do fix and flip calls. Another time a month, we just do Airbnb calls. I'm there every week. I teach for about 15 to 20 minutes, and then I get on and I work with every person individually. And so it usually takes 3 hours, and whatever you're going through, we're going to work until it's done. Erica on Monday nights, it's an open Q&A. She's going to work with you until everything's done, and then she's going to sit there and do a live action hour. So she'll sit there and go through any properties you have, and y'all just sit there and analyze them on the call. You need me offline, I'm there. Holler at me. You need Erica offline, we're there. It's like, I don't know how else to say it other than we're going to teach you, help you do it, and then we're there to support you along the way. I tell people it's like, like this little life raft. It's like you're jumping into this deep, dark, scary thing, and you're like, I don't want to drown. Well, that's what I'm here for. I'll make sure you don't drown. And then I'll try to give you like these little jet boosters to get you to where you want to go faster, which is this, which you can't lose sight of this. The whole thing that we teach in the Rental Academy is freedom through these little houses. And we're going to teach you how to do this. This is easy for us. This is just what I do in my sleep now. So I'm going to teach you how to do it in your sleep. And you're going to do so many of these, multiply, 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 that you're going to achieve this. And that's how we do it. So enough about that. I want anybody who wants to join or talk to us, set up a time to call, to talk with me. I really would love to chat with y'all. It's so awesome. I don't know how to say it. It's so awesome. You're going to, and I even mentioned the community. You're going to come in and have access to 200 other investors across the country immediately. And you're going to learn from them. You can link up with them. There's just so many opportunities. So with that, cowboysacademy.com. I'll write it here in case anybody forgets. Cowboys, if I can spell, academy.com. Sweet. I want to talk to you. and get you started buying real estate. All right, let's do some Q&A here. We don't do calls on Friday, Christina, but if you can't make a call, they're all recorded. You can request questions before then, and then you always have access to us outside of the calls. So, yeah. And Darius is in the group. I see him chatting. He can attest to what we do. So we just sign up on a Cowboys Academy and then the call. Yeah, so you'll go to cowboysacademy.com, you'll click schedule intro call, and there should be a calendar, a booking link. If I can get that pulled up, here, I'll just send y'all the booking link. Let's do that. Then you don't have to go through the whole page. That'll be easier. And then I'll start Q&A. Copy link. Boom, there you go. Oh, I sent that to Jack. Jack, that went to you directly. I don't know why I did that. There we go. Did that work? Perfect. All right, let's open up some Q&A. Where can we download the two different calculators? So Levi, I have not made the other calculator public to this point. I actually haven't even released the Burt calculator to our academy yet, so we're finalizing some stuff. So I don't know if I'll make it public or just leave it to our group. George, does it matter about your credit score? Yeah, if you don't have really good credit, it's going to be hard for you to buy using banks. Now, the one thing you can do with bad credit is buy creatively. So we can do, wrap mortgages, seller finance, things of those nature. But if you ever go to refinance out with the bank, you're going to have a problem. A lot of them, every bank's different. 680 and above probably get you there. And then if you have a good property that's producing, that's going to help your case too. And then just build a relationship with these lenders. Flipping fast loans, no, Jeff. I don't know flipping fast. David, go ahead, man.
Yeah, man. Sorry, I thought I'd try to ask this rather than type it out. Totally understand kind of what you're explaining for single-family homes, particularly somebody selling the house and not in it. But how would you go about this differently for a small multifamily, like a duplex, or even a scenario where there's a tenant in place and you're kind of coming into that with a existing tenant, you got to navigate that. But like on the small multifamily side, how do you handle that? Is it any similarly or different?
As far as comping, or
yeah, I mean, I think generally I get it. Like the ARV is going to be comparable. You're looking at other comparable small multifamily units in the area, but then in terms of like getting narrowed in on the market rental rate versus maybe what it's been rented in the past, rehab on a multi-unit situation, like each of those variables, because you have a multi-unit scenario, seems a little bit more complicated than it's just like a one-hitter, one unit, one rent, one rehab.
Yeah, so the rehab's going to be like pretty much the same, quote unquote. You're just going to do 2 kitchens. You're going to do 2 bathrooms. You know what I'm saying? But as far as like managing that, it'll be about the same process, and you can still go by the price per square foot for each unit side, depending on what needs to be done. When it comes to analyzing them, like as far as ARV, a lot of times you can still base that off of comps. They'll spread out a little bit farther to get more comparable homes, because it's not like homes where they're just all around. So the banks usually will do that. Sometimes, like, and I'm not the most well-versed guy in comping like big multifamily, but it's based on the net operating income. A lot of times on the large multifamilies, like when you get into, I guess it would technically be, B5 or up. Technically, I think you may could still find some comps for the 5-plex, but most of the time they're gonna base it off of how is the property performing. So what can you do? Where can you buy it at? Rehab the property at, raise rents, and then what's the net operating income and the cap rate based on that, and then they're going to use that to base what the value of the home is. So it's definitely different. We focus on residential a lot, one single family to quadplex, just for lending purposes, analyzing purposes, things of those nature. Currently on 2 family unit, 1 single family unit. When is the time to turn over to property manager, whether manage, own, maintain both properties? Patrick, when is it time to turn it over to a property manager? Just when you don't want to do it anymore. You know, I used to manage some of my properties when I first started, and if you put a good system in place, like you know, it can be very hands off depending on the type of property. You're obviously out mowing the lawns. I think probably in the you're saying in both properties. You know, if you like doing that, then great. But if you're like, you know what, I want this to be truly passive. For me, I reached a point where I was like, I want this real estate. Once I've found it and rehabbed it and it's rented, I don't want to deal with it. And so on my existing properties, I probably spend 20 minutes or less a week because my property manager does not call me unless there's a repair over $500 or a tenant's lease needs to be renewed. So it's just going to be based on your time and what you're trying to accomplish. And if the you know, property can sustain a 10% you know, hit from property management. What are your thoughts on transferring properties from personal to LLC? You're not going to be able to do that most likely. You put yourself in a gray area because they have what's called a due on sale clause. So if you were to take a rental property that's in your personal name and put it into an LLC, there is a chance that the bank sees that as a sale to a different entity and they're going to say the loan's due. Okay. So a lot of times, other than your personal home, if you have a trust, like we got our trust set up not long ago, you can move your personal home into your trust without a due on sale clause. They have legislation for that. But if you were to move one rental property from your name into an LLC, you have a chance of getting that due on sale clause. And so you would most likely have to refinance. And you probably got it at a lower rate than it is right now, so you may want to hold off on that until rates come down. Can you refinance a property without having a current full-time job? You know, it's a lot of times it's bank dependent with these small local banks and the relationship you have with them. You know, if you already have a loan and the property's been performing, there may be an opportunity where they'll refi. I can't promise that though. It's going to be bank dependent and what they're looking for. I don't mess with Bobby Z. I don't mess with life insurance policies. Never invested in it, so I'm not your guy for that. I know there's folks who do it, but I don't. I bought term life insurance when I was 23 years old or whenever, and that's all I needed. I decided to invest my money elsewhere. But yeah, I think you probably could loan against it and buy real estate through that. I know people do that in their 401k. Do you recommend only doing single family homes, or do you have condos or townhomes in your portfolio? So I don't think you have to only do single family homes. I like residential. I like single family up to a quadplex. The reason why is because it's easy entry, better tenants usually, loan options, tons of loan options. Banks lend to residential all the time. And then exit strategy. Especially single family home on exit strategy. I love when beginners start with a single family home. Now if they're house hacking, cool. And there's nothing wrong with starting with multifamily. So I don't want to put myself in a box here. Like if you're just starting out, you're like, bro, I want to do like the easiest thing possible, like the lowest risk. Single family homes appeal to the masses. And so I think you put yourself in a position when you buy an asset that appeals to the masses, because just think if like exit strategy wise, if you want to sell a single family home, who can you sell that to? You can sell that to an investor, or you can sell it to the general population. If you buy a quadplex, who can you sell that home to? An investor. The general population, most of them, aren't going to buy a quadplex. And so you just limit yourself, especially loan options too. I mean, banks are going to loan to commercial property, so I don't want to say they won't, but like, how many single family homes do banks loan to every day? It's just a very easy process. It's very easy to comp. Like you literally can hop on Zillow or hop on Backflip app and like know what properties are worth. So say all that to say no. Townhomes, condos aren't bad. You know, multifamily's not bad. Condos and townhomes, one thing you have to just look out for is like HOA. Like what are your recurring costs? And you could run into that with a single family too, but a lot of condos and HOA, you got to see, okay, you know, what's that cost? What are their rent laws and things of that nature? aren't they, the lender, usually fine as long as they're getting their payments? Christina, can you clarify on that? Will you type another chat clarifying which lender you're talking about? Can you give us a general idea of what the Rental Academy costs? This is going to sound real sleazy. Melissa, hop on a call with me, okay? Because I don't think it's fair for me to blast it out without talking to you. If you guys just hound me about it, I'll be glad to give you a general cost. It is a high ticket item, so it is going to be more than $3,000, but way less than 10. So if that gives you an idea. And we work with you guys for an entire year coaching, and then you can stay in coaching for like $199 a month after that, and then you're in the community forever, and you have access to the recorded core trainings forever. But we're super involved, and so we price it at a place where we can run the business to where our time is valued, and we run a business. But it is my job in this company now. We've got everybody else in place. I shoot videos, which is my least favorite part of the job. I sit right here and shoot them like the first week of every month, and then I teach our students or do calls like this. And it is my baby. It's the reputation that my name lies on, and so we spend a lot of time to make sure that people have success and get what they need. What has been my biggest failure or risk realized? How did you overcome in the real estate space? I think a couple things. Number one is over rehabbing when you're doing a rental property. That's something that we had to work. I had to work through, and then I work with our students through. Is we can't over rehab a rental property. We got to meet that fine line to be able to get the ARV we want, but without going all out, because renters are going to tear stuff up over time, and so it's better to not do that. And then learning how to manage rehab correctly. I think that was my first deal I ever did, my first flip I ever did. I would call it a failure because we didn't make the income we were wanting to make. We didn't lose money, but learning how the process goes. How does the rehab flow go? How do I set up the conversations with contractors? If I'm investing out of state, how do I work with boots on the ground to make sure that they're staying on the contractors and sending me updates and photos? And so I would say, those were the two biggest, and putting systems in place to make sure that I don't do that again. I have a 2-bed, 1-bath Airbnb with a $115,000 mortgage. House across from me, 3 beds, sold for $300K. Should I enter the bed, bath, home, increase Airbnb profits, rent, or sell? Eric and Ari, that is depending on what you want to do. So you need to look and say, okay, if I was going to add another bedroom and maybe another half bath, how much is it going to increase my rents, and what's going to be my return on that investment? How quickly, if you got to put 30 grand in on it, based on the new rents you're going to get, how quickly are those new rents going to cover the money you just put into that deal? And say, okay, is my return on that investment what I'm looking to get, right? Am I getting a 10% cash on cash return? Am I getting a 15% cash on cash return, or am I getting a 2% cash on cash return? It may not be worth it, because you could put that money to the stock market and get 8% cash on cash return. So I think it depends as far as keeping it as a rental. If you got $115,000 on the mortgage, and let's say it's going to cost you I'm just using numbers, 30 to fix it up, and now you're all in it, call it 145, 150, and you could sell it for 300 and make 150 gross. Great. Do you need the $150,000? What are you going to do with it? Are you going to waste it and go buy a razor and crazy stuff, new truck or whatever? Or are you going to have the discipline to say, the only reason I'm selling this is because I believe I can take this equity and I can go multiply it? Okay, that's kind of how I use, my brain works, is if I sell a property, the majority of the time, unless we're doing something where I'm still going to try to get myself out of having to do this kitchen, but unless it's specified, hey, we're buying this property to do something on our personal property, a lot of times I will try to keep that money in real estate. And so if you want to sell it and you got a better opportunity, go for it. Or, like you said, you could pull a HELOC out. It's a fantastic strategy. And when I use HELOCs, we use them as a bridge loan. So you're going to, a hard money, you could be your own hard money lender. Okay, so you could lend yourself off that HELOC to purchase properties and rehab it, and then you could either refinance out, pay that HELOC back, or sell the property, pay the HELOC back. I don't like leaving HELOCs into a deal for a long time. I like to look at them as hard money. So I know there's a couple different options. I think you just need to think through what you're trying to accomplish. At what point would you recommend starting to buy properties with an LLC? I did it at the beginning. So like when people come into our group, when we're having onboarding, I tell them, hey, set up a call and get your holding company set up, number one, and then once we choose the market you're investing in, get your LLC set up in that particular state. Christina, you could be okay with that. They could be okay with you continuing to pay that loan, but especially in this high interest market, like if you had a personal loan with a low interest rate and then you move it to your LLC, somebody could be like, hey, she had that at 3%. Like that was a transfer of ownership. She needs to refi that loan. A lot of times they can do the do on sell clause. You just put yourself in a weird spot when you do that. I don't do it, and I can't recommend you do it because I don't want you to do it, and then your loan get called. Say you start with long-term rentals. How would you branch out to the short terms? What are some pros and cons for doing this? So I teach long-term rentals, short-term rentals, and fix and flips. Like when you come into my world, those are the things I'm going to teach you. It's hard to say when's the right time to go to short-term rental outside of long-term. I personally tell you what I did. Doesn't mean it's the gospel. I got folks in our group who buy short-term first. That's okay. I, in my mind, was very risk-averse when I first started, and I still do things and teach things to do it in a conservative, controlled, correct manner. And so when I was buying real estate, I felt as though long-term rentals are the least risky, right? Once you get a renter in there, they're there for normally a decent amount. And there's not much management that's involved. You know what's coming in every month. It's pretty stable. And so I built a large portfolio of those, probably, I don't know if I had 15 properties, 15 long-term rentals. And then I said, you know what? I think I could get some pretty good returns on an Airbnb. And so I went out and bought my first Airbnb in 2019. I think it was 2019. And the returns are great, right? I bought it for $187. It's normally Airbnbs are in an appreciating market. So the value of it's going up and the cash flow is way more because you have that opportunity through Airbnb. But you have to just realize you got to furnish that property. You have to message guests every day. You can automate. We teach how to automate all you want. There's still going to be one-on-one interactions that have to be done. So you either have to do that or you have to hire somebody to do that. You have to hire a cleaning team. And there's a good chance your first cleaning team is going to suck. And so then you're going to have to hire another cleaning team. And then they're going to suck. And then you're going to have to hire another cleaning team. And then maybe they'll be good. And you just don't know. There's a lot more that goes into it. Like I've had people that show up to my Airbnb, walk in at 11 p.m. and the place wasn't cleaned. Cleaning team forgot. Calendars are combined. They've had their notifications and they just dropped the ball. So I get cussed out at 11 p.m. Woke up, fell asleep on my recliner watching a show, and this guy's cussed me out. So then I had to deal with that. I had to get him a hotel for the night. I had to get the cleaning team over there first thing in the morning. And so you just open yourself up to a lot. And then outside of all of that, your next booking is based on your previous booking and your other previous bookings. And so you have to play this game, especially at the beginning, to where, bro, we got to get 5-star reviews. And guests know that. So don't want to scare you out. I know I just made that sound terrible. I have Airbnb, but it's just it's the hospitality business. It's not just real estate investing. So if you're ready to do that, there's some opportunity there. We'll teach you how to do it. We have a coach dedicated, Connor Cushman, to teaching you Airbnb, generating you leads, all that good stuff. But just know it's a lot more hands-on. Sorry, long answer. My wife, accountant, tends to be very risk-averse when it comes to investing. She's very factual, detailed, has to be one of her. I'm more of a feels good, calculator, looks good, let's do it. One of the things I love about your IG videos is an emphasis on being on the same page with your wife. Have you worked with couples like us and seen? Yeah, so, Daniel, it's a delicate situation, when your wife's not like totally on board. I think the best way to do it is, and it's hard to say without knowing you guys, knowing personalities, but it's just sit down, if you hadn't already, tell her what your goals are. Just like, okay, this is what I'm hearing. This is what this guy's doing. They're having great success. If you look at people, like pull up real estate data, if she's factual, like pull up vacancy rates. Vacancy rates are 5%. That means you got a 95% chance of getting your property rented, right? And then pull up the appreciation graph of real estate. And then, look at your market and pull up after repair values what properties are going to be worth once you fix them up, but what you can get them at, and then what rents are. I would say try to show her data if at all possible without being too pushy, and then just like inundate her with the lingo. So I would do this like strategically, but I don't know if my wife did it. It's like whenever we had a long trip, I would turn on like when we first started our journey and we were in debt at 22 years old, 23 years old, however old we were, I would turn on Dave Ramsey every time we were in the car. Like, just be like, hey, let's just listen to what they're saying. Next thing you know, my wife's like, bro, we need to get out of debt. And we got out of debt. Then you start listening to real estate. So I would encourage you to have podcasts on. If you're at the house, watch YouTube videos with it. And just, you don't want to be, it's like, you know, I don't want to say that because I could get in trouble. But I was going to say, it's kind of like, you know, when you're dealing with a teenager, you want to be delicate. So it's like, I'm not calling our wives or husbands teenagers, okay? Even though my wife would say I act like one sometime. But just go about it very delicately. For first investment property, you recommend setting up LLC first? Yeah, I mean it's an easy process to do, so I think it's good to set up LLCs. Christina, cool, Christina. I look forward to talking to you. Eric and Ari, cool deal. What are your thoughts on the Colorado market? I don't know it very well, Shiloh. My first thought is it's very expensive. Probably some opportunity from short-term rental, maybe mid-term rental. But we don't have any partners around the country in there because it's hard to do long-term rentals or burrs there. But you could probably do expensive flips and you could probably do high-dollar Airbnbs. Brock, if you continue to put profits back into buying property and doing things like that, what money do you use for everyday life? So I am a huge proponent of leveraging the W-2. Leverage, or your small business, whatever, whether you work for yourself or work for somebody, the longer that you can leverage that and continue to stack properties, the more wealth you're going to allow yourself to build. And then, you know, you can, and there's different ways to go about it. You can set certain dates, you know, that, hey, I want to leave, like I am trying to leave this job by this date. Well, then, you know, we're going to put investment strategies in place to say, okay, our goal right here isn't just to acquire as many properties as we can, not focusing on cash flow necessarily. We're just trying to stack properties because we're playing the long game. You may not do that if you're saying, bro, I'm trying to get out of here in 2 to 3 years. You're going to be focused in and say, okay, I am buying specific properties with specific returns with the sole goal of reaching this particular cash flow number per month. On the flip side of that, you can also live off of equity. I know I just was talking about not doing that and doing cash flow, but on the flip side, you can live off equity, okay? What people don't realize is they think cash flow, and I mentioned this earlier, is the only thing that'll set them free, but I beg to differ. Let's say you buy, you know, you get to 10 properties, we'll say 20 properties. I mean, I got to 21 properties in 2 years, so let's say you get to 20 properties in whatever, 5 years. What you can do is over those 5 years, those first couple you bought are not going to have a lot of equity in them, okay? So you could go and sell 2 to 3 properties year 5 that you bought year 1, cash out at 100 grand plus, live off that money, and then use somebody else's money to buy 3 more. And then next year, after the next year, you take your next 3 that you bought earliest, sell them, live off that, use somebody else's money to buy 3 more. And I think people don't realize they can do that, and that the real life-changing opportunity is done through equity. In the meantime, cash flow is great too. 100% we're going to have cash flow coming in. But you can stack properties, sell them, live off of them, buy more, and just repeat that process. So I would leverage that W-2 or the work as quick as you can. If you want to do real estate for a living, I'm not your guy to teach you how to do that, like wholesaling or being an agent. You can do that. You know, if you want to cold call people all day, I don't want to do that. I want to teach people who are like, look, dude, I want to build life-changing wealth. I have income coming in. How do I leverage this? How do I leverage my time? How do I leverage whatever to do this in this timeline? And then we help them do that through building rental properties and flips if possible. Kelly, suggestions on states and regions, Midwest and Southeast. That's where the majority of our partners are, where we connect people with in the Rental Academy is in those areas. Yeah, you could take out a personal loan for a down payment if the interest rate is very low. I know people who've done it if the interest rate's very high. So you just want to make sure, this is where analyzing is important. Anytime we're leveraging for a down payment, we just want to make sure that our deals are really good. Okay, we want to make sure we got good deals. Christina, no, this calculator works for Airbnbs. That's what I've always bought my Airbnbs using this calculator. Bobby, would you recommend buying single-family homes that aren't in distress, but after running the numbers, you'll still make passive income, though it gets better with time? Yeah, that's a turnkey property. There's nothing wrong with buying turnkey properties. You just have to know when you do that, your money's going to be tied up for a little bit. So you're going to have your down payment tied up for a few years till you can refi and get it out once the property's grown in value. So it just depends on strategy. I work with people who are like, hey, bro, I got a bunch of capital. I'm okay with locking it up for a few years. Let's just find me great cash flowing deals. And we put them in contact with people who are going to be able to give them those deals. You tell me, hey, I want a multi-family home that's going to cash flow me $500 to $700 a month. I'm good with putting 20% down and a little bit in rehab. Where can I find that? I'm going to point you in the right direction. I'm thinking of the town right now and the partner that we work with. And he's going to be able to bring this to you. But then, other people don't want to lock their money up. So, yes, you definitely can do that. It just depends on your strategy. Average cash flow for your long-term rentals, Ivan, it depends on the strategy I use to buy them. If I bird them, that's going to be somewhere between break even and $150 to $200. If I buy them straight up, call it $400 to $1,000 a month. Thoughts on investment homes for Section 8? Yeah, there's nothing wrong with Section 8. It's just go through the process of getting it set up as Section 8. So you just got to look and say, where are the returns better at? The government paying me or doing it on the private sector? Oh, Eric, what's up? You're the Uber driver. Yeah, Eric drove me in an Uber in Charleston. That's awesome, bro. That is awesome. I remember that ride. You took me from the Citadel Mall over to Mount Pleasant. Good times. Currently focused on obtaining my real estate license. I have some goals to achieve in that realm. I'd also like to check out you and your academy. What are your thoughts of being a real estate agent in this and being in the flip long-term, short-term market? Yeah, that's A-okay, man. That is A-okay. If you have a desire to be a real estate agent, go be a real estate agent, make your income through there, and then go invest into properties. You're just going to help yourself because you're going to learn, about the market. I have my license. I got it a few years into investing. I don't represent anybody but myself, and I literally got my license just to be able to go look at properties without having to call my realtor. So do not need a license to be successful in investing, but if you want to have it, that's A-okay. Colin, the benefits of opening an LLC in Wyoming, the main one is anonymity. So, they don't report like who owns the holding companies. And then obviously, you got your tax benefits and your protection from being underneath an LLC, but that's going to be your main one, anonymity. Thoughts on Washington? Would love to start local. It's expensive. Kylie, it's probably going to be too much money. I will be glad to, dig into that market with you and come to that conclusion. But I would encourage you, don't be scared to invest out of state. It's very common in this industry. And if you work with somebody like us, we make it very, very, very easy. So thoughts on New Mexico? I think there's probably some opportunity in New Mexico. We may have a student or two there. There may still be some opportunity there. Are your team in Tennessee? Yes, we do have team members in Tennessee markets, 100%. Yep. Stand on, someone's on. You're welcome. Glad to be here, guys. Thank you I'm glad that y'all are finding the information helpful. That's my goal. If I don't deliver value on these, then you didn't get what you came for. So that makes me happy. And if somebody didn't get value on this and there's something that you're like, man, this doesn't make sense, I wish you would hit this, you guys can DM me on Instagram and I will help you out. Christina, what about California? California's going to be hard. Like, you can find some expensive flips there, but for your traditional long-term rentals, probably 20% of our community is in California, and they invest across the country. It's just pretty common because it's so expensive there. And it's not a very landlord-friendly state. I would not advise buying in California to anybody listening. I want to hammer home, guys. Do not be scared of investing abroad. That's why we put people in place to make it easy for you. Thoughts on purchasing from an owner directly? Yeah, you can purchase from an owner directly. That's fine. If it's an off-market deal, there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Why would your team give Academy members really good deal? Because that's what my business is. If I kept all of the deals for myself, number one, I'd have to raise a lot more capital than I feel like doing. And then number two, I wouldn't have the opportunity to help other people. I mean, that's literally why it exists. There's no catch. There are deals that I'll get from some of those lists that I'll buy too. But there are so many there's so many deals, and there's 15 to 20 markets that we put you in, and there's 4 coaches. So like we're not all snagging up the good deals, and there's 15 to 20 markets. So we're not gonna snag them. It's not like you're getting leftovers whatsoever. A lot of times I will just buy in South Carolina because I have so many contacts here. And so you don't have to worry about me doing that. But if I don't bring you guys good deals, I don't have a business. So my business is teaching you how to buy real estate and making sure you're successful. And so number one, I don't have the capital raised to be able to do that. Number two, I would be a scumbag. And hopefully from hanging out with me today and watching my content and kind of seeing the kind of guy I am, that is not me whatsoever. So hope that was a good answer. Yeah, you can feel very confident that you'll get good deals. Landlord here. Yeah, it's hard, Christina, in California. Very hard. Cool. All right, that's it, guys. Thank you so much. This was amazing hanging out with y'all. I'm going to type it in the chat one more time. Would love to talk to anybody who wants to work with us. Would absolutely love it. If you don't want to work with us, you're a loser. Just kidding. Not at all. Go buy real estate. Even if you're not working with me, please just start buying real estate. And if you've bought a few properties and you're not scaling yet, please go scale. The life, I'm talking from personal experience here, the life that you've always dreamed of is waiting on the other side of you buying these. My wife and I were broke in 2018, pretty much a negative net worth, and now we're multimillionaires 5 years later, okay? Because we took action. And you have to put yourself in the game to give yourself a chance to win. And so I want to encourage you guys, just join the game. You got YOLO, right? You only live once. Like, go do it. Go do it, right? Go do it. You'll be so glad you did. It's the best decision we ever made. It's brought us together as a couple. We get to do things together now. My wife's way more hands-on now with rehabs and stuff. When she wasn't doing anything at the beginning, we have fun talking through properties and deals and what we're going to do. And it's just, it's amazing. And then you start, for those of you who have kids, like you just start thinking about that legacy. It's like, what kind of life do I want my family to live while I'm here on earth? Okay. And then what do I want my legacy to be when I'm gone? And so you have the opportunity to not only set them up in a great way monetarily, but also teach them. Like, this is how we do this. This is why we do it. This is how we manage money. This is how we manage assets. This is how we treat people. Yeah, we have nice stuff. We get to go on vacations. We own beach homes. We own mountain homes. You are not better than the next person at your school who has 2 pair of clothes. And just like you get to teach all these different lessons while allowing them to live this amazing life, setting them up for success, but making sure they're doing the right thing with the opportunity that we've been given to steward. And you just open yourself up to so many realms and so many things that you don't know exist when you're stuck in the middle class world. I've been there, grew up there my whole life, was there, for a long time in my adult life, and I've been broke and I've had money, and I can tell you, I like having money better than being broke. So anybody who tells you that they don't, they're lying. It's a lot easier. I mean, dude, to just be able to go out to dinner and not have to think about what you're buying, or be able to leave the waitress $100 tips, like just little stuff like that. Or I got friends who are I don't know where I'm going with all this, but just if you want to listen, I'm just gonna rant. Like, you got people. I am so for helping the poor, and so I think that's a great opportunity. But I also think sometimes the middle class hardworking person gets left out of some of the what's the word I'm looking for? Some of the philanthropy. And so, when you start building wealth that gives you excess, you're able to help people in ways you haven't before. So there's times where, and I'm just giving you guys examples. If you think it's bragging, just get off. I'm not bragging. I'm telling you what's on the other side of you doing this. like we will go and we'll pay down like some student loans for people that we know who are hustling. Like people wouldn't be like they need money. It's like, no, they look like they're doing fine. But I'm like, you know what? If they didn't have those $5,000 student loans, like what would that do for them? And you get to do things like that. You know, you get to send your parents on trips. I mean, there's just so many things. And so I'm still on the journey myself. I don't have exotic cars. I do have a nice house and some land, but I live in the middle of nowhere, so it wasn't that expensive. You know, I don't have the plane. I don't have any of that. You don't need that. I think what you'll understand, if you want that, that's cool. Some people have that desire, and I don't look down on them because they're making enough money. It's fine. But I can't explain the feeling of the freedom. Like anything above that's not going to bring any more joy. It's just the freedom and being able to bless others. So I'm rambling. I'm ranting. I'm going to shut up. Thank you guys for being on here. A replay will be sent out. Would love to work with anybody who wants to work with me. If not, keep following the brand. Thank you for supporting us. Holler if I can ever help. And until next time, I will talk to you guys soon, okay? Thank you.